Hey, thanks guys for coming to Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. I am so excited to have Danielle Roberts from Boomer Benefits in Fort Worth on board with us. It's fantastic. So Danielle and I had an interview where she interviewed me about my planning business relations, and it just went over like friggin'. It was awesome. I
Yes,
can't
it
tell you how
did.
many people comment. I'm looking at my app right there, as you can see that I'm looking at my app. Anyway, it's my phone that I'm looking at. I can't believe how many people watched that. It's just such positive response. And Medicare is not an area, my friends, that I have an expertise at all. And I am a certified financial planner with a CFP, with a master's degree with over 25 years in experience. And yet last year at this time, if you would have asked me the difference between Part A, Part B, Medigap, and Medicare Advantage, I would have no clue. And that's why I say you've got to talk to a broker. This is no joke. Yeah, Social Security is freaking kindergarten stuff compared to Medicare. It's just no other way around that. If you screw it up, you might not be able to get it back. It's just no other way around it. So, we've talked to Medicare stuff before, but I just want to bring on the expert because it's just all the way. There's only way to do this. Learn from the experts. And Danielle, welcome aboard. Thanks again for being here.
My
Absolutely.
pleasure. Thanks. I'm excited to chat with you guys about Medicare today. Everyone finds it confusing.
Oh.
So that's my job, to make it a little bit easier on everyone. So if you're out there thinking that it's rocket science, you're right, because it's a beast.
It's literally, as there's a quote somebody said about a rocket scientist literally could not figure out Medicare. I was like, yeah. And if that guy or lady can't, then how the hell is an average guy, digging ditches for a living going to be able to figure it out?
Yeah, we're here in Fort Worth where they have Lockheed here. And I once had a gentleman come in who had worked there, and he said that he was an aerospace engineer, and it was harder for him to read the Medicare new handbook than it was to build airplanes. So I was like, wow, that was a pretty good he's right.
That's an endorsement in some degree for you of your knowledge, but then again, it's like, why does it have to be so difficult? So
yeah,
no one wakes up in the morning, as a kindergartner, say, I'm going to go study Medicare. Mom, I want to know all about Medicare. How in God's name did you get involved in this? And just tell us the genesis of Danielle and how you came to run Boomer Benefits. And just give us a freaking 20-minute story or five, whatever you want to do. Would you please?
You bet. So my brother and I started this agency. The agency's been going for 14 years now. And when we were first doing health insurance, we worked with group and individual health insurance. So I was working with a lot of small business owners. And these are typically a lot of times men and women in their 40s. So they've worked for a corporate career, and now they've changed over and they are an entrepreneur now, and they're building their own business. And we would finish setting up their health insurance, and they would ask me, hey, do you know anything about Medicare? My mom came over and tried to read all this stuff. It made no sense to me. And I said, no, and I said no. I bet you I said no 4 or 5 times before I finally realized that maybe there's something to how difficult Medicare is. And I remember the business owner saying, this insurance you just told me is, beans compared to what she's trying to figure out. And so we looked into it. We did find that Medicare is ridiculously confusing with 4 parts, 10 supplements, and literally thousands of Medicare Advantage and drug plans across the nation. Right. And most people don't know how to figure it out at all. So what we did is we set out to become experts in it. We started helping.
This is you and your brother now.
It. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So for 5 years, it was just him and I. And during that time, we slowly transitioned out of group and individual health insurance and just did Medicare because demand was so great from the baby boomers. Like as soon as we started letting people know we were doing Medicare, we had tons of inquiries. And our business then quickly grew from that because you got 10,000 baby boomers aging into Medicare every single day, trying to figure this stuff out. And so now today, all these years later, I have almost 50 employees out there. Wow. And we bring them in and we train them on everything we've ever learned about Medicare. And then they help people across 47 states with this stuff. And we take an educational approach. So we bring people in, and the first thing we do is don't put the cart before the horse. You don't need to worry about your Advantage plan or Part D or any of that. The first thing you need to do is need to know how your original Medicare benefits work. Let's make you comfortable with that, because that's what takes the fear away, this fear of the unknown. And Medicare really is pretty great insurance. Once we lay it all out, people can see that it becomes much easier. And then once we've explained all of that, then we help them determine the 2 different routes you can go between Advantage plans and supplements, and help them sort of feel their way to which route looks best for their needs, their budget, and then we find plans in their area that suit them and help them enroll in that.
I mean, that's great. But I mean, before that, what were you doing before you started health insurance? But I mean, again, that's great. But why did you get involved in the industry, this kind of industry to begin with? Anything?
Yeah. I graduated from TCU, and I had a journalism degree and an English degree, which is lovely.
Texas native, born and bred?
I'm originally from Michigan.
Okay.
So my parents divorced when I was a kid, and my mom had a cousin down here, and we moved to Texas, and I've been here ever since.
Okay.
Love Texas, and I wouldn't go back to that snow ever.
Really? You don't want to go back to snow and clouds?
That is the worst up there, man. All of you people.
We might have some Michigan people that want to contact you now are offended, Danielle.
I know. And I love to go back and visit, but I love to visit in the summertime.
Yes.
And my parents, my dad and my stepmom, love to send me pictures of snow in April and May. And I'm like, good for you. So, I love to go to a snowy place for just a weekend and maybe go skiing, but that's enough for me. So I came to Texas, graduated from high school in San Antonio, moved to Fort Worth to go to TCU. And then TCU was so awesome, and Fort Worth was so awesome that I just have never left. I've been here ever since. Okay. I couldn't afford to pay my bills with my liberal arts degree. So I had student loans to pay back, and I quickly realized that I think my highest paying newspaper job was like $17,000 a year with no benefits. And I said, nope, I'm going to go to the business world. So I worked for 10 years in the staffing industry. Now, temporary staffing is, by the way, a great senior side hustle. So if you're retired and need some extra income and you need short jobs, so recommend it. We had people, the best people, we loved those workers that were 65 to 75 that would come in and do like a file clerk position. And a lot of times they would take these jobs and they would come in and say, I don't want to work full time. Call me when you need somebody for a week or 3 days, and staffing companies get calls to cover people's vacations. So we would get an order for someone to come in and work for a week or 2 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks. There might be a project. And this is great because you can choose the assignments that you want to work. You can work part-time or full-time, or you can do these little short bursts, which a lot of them did. And those were my favorite workers. I always loved to place the seniors because they were reliable. I mean, compared to the younger generations, the work ethic is amazing. So anyway, I won't get off on a big tangent.
No, that's interesting, though.
So check it out, because you need to make some ends meet, and you're retiring on just Social Security or a little bit above that. That's a really good way to earn.
And you get probably paid, what, $15 an hour too?
Yep. Yeah, you can. And so you could earn up to whatever limit, and you know better than I do about this, but whatever limit would cause you to get taxed on Social Security. Yeah. Like $17,000 a year or something, but whatever you could earn up to that limit will help, right? So, but I did that for about 10 years. And while the seniors were very reliable, most other people were not. So you put them on a job and they no-show, or they file workers' comp, or they, it just,
come in drunk.
Humans are very unreliable product to sell. And I didn't want to go into sales in that field. And my brother and I always were entrepreneurial kids. I was selling earthworms to fishermen when I was 4. I saved up my money to go to McDonald's. That was my big thing. And we sold car washing services in our neighborhood. We always did that. So when this opportunity came along to start a business and I was kind of burned out, I negotiated with my former employer to go part-time. I left that job and still handled a project for them that I had handled for years. And this gave me the money to, be able to afford peanut butter and jelly for dinner while I tried to start my insurance agency. And I wanted to sell insurance because it's a non-perishable product, but it also is something that people need. And it's something that gives you a sense of fulfillment when you help someone figure out something complicated. So it's very important to me to do something that I would feel good about at night, right? I'm going to go home and go to bed and I feel good that I've helped people. And the Medicare part of this industry is super good for that, because anybody can sell you a group health policy, but to sit down and help you transition from a workforce where you've always had your insurance chosen from you or for you over to figuring all this out on your own. The kinds of cards and emails and stuff that we get from our clients that are so appreciative, like, make it all worth it, right? You just feel good every day about helping people with this crazy, complicated stuff.
I mean, now, do you do any like life insurance or anything like that? Anything, I don't know, annuities, that kind of stuff? Or is it just Medicare all the time?
Very little. So we
Okay.
do a little bit of dental, vision, and hearing because Medicare
Okay.
doesn't cover that, and that's a big need that our clients express. And eventually, we went ahead and got contracted with some of those companies.
Okay.
And we can write final expense insurance. We can
Okay.
write any type of life insurance, but we don't pursue that. We will let
Okay.
clients know we offer it, but we
Okay.
don't do any type of property and casualty. We don't
Oh,
sell long-term care. I actually refer that out to an expert. And this is just because we want to be experts at this one thing
yeah. No,
and be
absolutely.
the best in our
Right.
ability. And then if there's other stuff that people want, we can help them find good experts. And fortunately, this one thing is a big enough market that
Yeah.
we have people every single day needing the help.
And it's getting bigger every day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
I'm just curious, like on if someone's under Medicare, like I'm 50 years old, I just got, I don't know, I'm starting my own job. Do you do private health plan, like ACA stuff, or
Yeah,
just
that actually
Medicare
happens
stuff?
a lot because people will have a younger spouse, so they're aging
Yes,
Medicare and
exactly.
that. So we don't sell the
Okay.
individual plans, but we do help people through the process. So
Okay.
if somebody
Cool.
is their spouse is going to lose their insurance, we walk them through how to go to healthcare.gov, how to fill out the income information so
Okay.
you can see if you can get a subsidy, and then how to evaluate the plans.
Okay.
Here in the DFW area, I know somebody that does individual health insurance, so
Okay.
if they're
Okay.
local, we can refer them, but in other parts of the nation, we just walk them through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is gonna sound weird, and I guess I'm putting the cart before the horse, but I'm just thinking, you got an agency of 50 people, and you and the brother are still the owner, or just you
Yeah.
now, or okay.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you? I hate to say, don't. I'm just curious. How do you get paid on that? I mean, I know there's commissions
Yeah.
and stuff, but how does it work?
This is
If you don't
such a
mind me
great
asking.
question, right? Because we get this question all the time. In fact, I just filmed a video about it to put on the YouTube channel because people always ask. So I'm like, okay, they want this information, we'll put it out there.
Yeah.
So your Medicare insurance broker is paid exactly the same way that an auto broker, a homeowner's broker
Okay.
is paid. So when you
And
call,
would you mind just deciphering broker versus
yeah,
whatever else?
that's a good point. So an
Thanks.
insurance agent is somebody that has a license to sell insurance, and they could be what's a captive agent. So
Yeah. Yeah.
let's say
Right. Right.
I worked
Okay.
for Humana.
Right.
I would only sell Humana's product, so I would call myself an insurance agent.
Okay.
If you have your own business and you are contracted with 30 carriers like we are, then we're a broker because we're not going to be biased to sell you one product or another. We're going to find the plan among all those that's the best fit for what we
Okay.
determined you need. So
So
really, a
agent means
broker
you're
is a
working
great
for a
way.
certain firm, and broker means you're just open. You're a complete
Yeah.
independent contractor. So,
Yeah. So while I'm still an agent, I'm a broker by choice because we
right.
want to be able to offer our clients multiple
Everything.
products to
Okay.
choose from. Yeah. Good question.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So when you come in and we help you, or we get on the phone and walk you through, and we sell you a policy, something a lot of people don't know about insurance, life insurance, again, homeowners insurance, auto insurance, any type of insurance. When you pay that premium, there's already a commission built in that
Okay.
goes to an agent. Now, if you enroll through a broker or an agent, that agent gets that piece.
Okay.
And the reason the insurance company wants to pay us that is they know that when that person has a problem or a question, they're going to call the broker. And this
Okay.
cuts down on the insurance companies' need to have staff this big call center. They can have a smaller
Ah.
call center with less employees, but also we're men on the ground bringing them business in,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
if I have them as one of my choices, they're going to be presented to new clients and I'm bringing them business. So it's a relationship like that. Now, if you were to call that same insurance company and buy that direct from them, you would pay exactly the same price. You would get no discount. You pay the commission anyway because they're insurance companies, right? They are a little greedy. They'll keep the piece to themselves. And the thing that you lose is all the support that you would have had from the agent. And so here's the thing.
Ooh.
An insurance broker or agent like myself, we have a vested interest in keeping your business. So we're going to go to a great big extent to solve problems for you. So if Medicare denies your claim, here at Boomer Benefits, you call us, we figure out why, and we help you write the appeal. If you're standing at the pharmacy counter and they tell you your Part D drug is not going to get filled, you don't call the insurance company, you don't call Medicare and sit on hold. We would never make our clients do that. You call here and my team is going to help you walk through that. And that's something that we have established here that's a little bit different from our competitors. I think a lot of brokers provide some supportive service,
Right.
but we really have done a lot more. And so we do earn that commission by helping you with the kinds of stuff that you probably don't even realize when you're getting into Medicare that are going to give you headaches down the road. And so we're earning that money by doing that. If you call and enroll direct through the carrier,
Right.
they're not going to tell you that the insurance agency next door has a cheaper rate for the same policy they're selling you. They're not going to help you do your Part D every year because that's not their job. If Medicare denies a claim, they're not going to help you write an appeal because when Medicare denies the claim, the Medicare supplement doesn't have to pay either. So they don't want
They
to
have an
have you.
incentive to sit on.
Yeah, it's not in their best interest to help you resolve those problems.
But it still
So that's
costs the
what
same
broker
for the
does.
end client. He's still paying the commission. It's just not
Mhm.
paying you. He's paying the insurance company. So
Yeah, that's
so
the thing.
why would anyone go directly through? I mean, they're still
I
paying.
Yeah, I think that people just don't want to trust it. They just think that somehow
Yeah.
they're paying more to get through a broker, and it's just not the case. And so they'll go and enroll direct with the company, and they don't know the kinds of hiccups and issues that happen with Medicare that they're going to be stuck with when they do that. In fact, we get so many people calling us every year who are online researching a problem that's happening, and they come across our website and they're like, what? This company fixes it for me? I didn't know
Right.
about that. And so they'll call and be like, how can I switch my policy to you? Because this has been a
Okay.
nightmare for me trying to fix this. So I'm
And-
always trying to spread the word to people that, you
Yeah.
know, the question shouldn't be, why would you use an agent? The question should be, why would you go with the insurance company and give up all the benefit that you could have gotten from an agent or a broker?
For the same price.
Yeah, same price. You're going to pay that price anyway.
That's what I'm
And,
saying, because it's like set by CMS or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's right. The Medicare supplement carriers, they set their own rates for their products, and that rate is the rate. They're going to base that on your zip code, your gender, whether you use tobacco, if you get household discounts. But also, when they have rate increases, they don't get to just arbitrarily raise your rate. They have to go to the Department of Insurance and say, we paid out this percentage of claims, and so we need to raise prices by this much to be level. So they can't just go out and, jack your rate up. They have to there are some guidelines and rules that are incumbent upon them from the insurance departments.
When so going back to, I don't know, say I'm 72 years old, I've always gone through, United Healthcare directly, just got to know me better. Is it too late then to switch over to Boomer Benefits or any broker, or you like at that point are you stuck with these guys or what?
Yeah, so it depends. For example, if you were still, when you first enroll in Medicare, you have a 6-month period that comes right after your Part B when you can pick any Medigap plan that you want, no health questions asked. You can change as many times as you want during that window with no health questions asked. So if you're in that first 6 months, you could call us and we could switch you. After that point, the time that people usually want to switch is when they get a rate increase. That's when they're calling around and they want to know, can I get my same Plan F or Plan G cheaper elsewhere? We check, see if anyone else is cheaper, but then to change outside of that window in most states, not all, but in most states, you have to go through underwriting. So about 75% of the people in that case will be able to pass the underwriting and change plans. We have clients that do it every year. They shop their policy through us and we help them lower the rate. But let's say you had a serious health condition. Let's say you had COPD, so chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. That's a chronic condition. Medigap plans are going to decline you left and right for that. So if you had started with a carrier and you got that during your 6-month window when you didn't have to answer health questions, after that point, you're really not going to be able to change unless you live in a state like California where you have a once-a-year window when you can change without underwriting. So this is really important for people to know because it's very important that you make a good choice up front. If you have a health condition which is going to prevent you from changing later, we want to look at the long-term history of that carrier's rate increases and put you with a carrier in your area that not only has a competitive rate, but has a pretty long history of stable rates because you might get a 5 or 6% rate increase a year, but that's better than 13 or 14%. And so we have all that data for all the companies that we can look at and help
How
you
would
make
you figure that on your own? I mean, literally. All right, so let me ask you a question, Danielle. So I'm going back. I'm 72. I don't have a Medigap. I got a Medicare Advantage with Company A, and I don't like them anymore. I like Company B, but I bought it through Company A. Can I still come to a broker to my window just shut? Can I still come to you guys to say, hey, I haven't talked to anybody for 7 years, but I am looking for a new take on things.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when in the Advantage plans, you can change those in the fall. So if
Okay.
you enrolled in that plan through the health company, you can't bring an agent into that after the contract is already in place. But during the annual election period,
Okay.
if you change to another company, you could do that and then apply for that new company with the broker so that you would get that support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And the
we
broker still
usually
gets paid in that case too.
they do, but
Okay.
sometimes somebody will call and they're like desperate to switch to us, and we might look at all the options and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, you
Yeah.
really need to be where you are. There's not a
Okay.
better deal for you out here,
Okay.
so right now is not a good idea to switch." And we'll
Okay.
tell them if
Okay.
it's in their best interest to stay where they should stay. We'll say, "Call us back next year. Let us look again then." You can always evaluate it from year to year because Advantage plans change their benefits every year, and you might
Yeah.
not
Right.
like
Right.
what's coming the next year, but we won't move them unless it really is in their best interest.
It's never too late to go to somebody like you guys to say, hey, look, I mean, I've been on Medicare for a couple of years. I just don't know anything about it. What's going on? Things have changed. It's never too late to consult with you and say, hey, is there anything better out there? Right? I mean, they're
Sure.
not okay.
Yeah, they could call and say, tell me, do I have something good? And sometimes we find that, geez, we can save them $1,000 a year on their premiums and they get
That's
exactly the same policy.
I
This
mean, that's
happens
real
if
money,
yeah,
especially if you're
because
like you
you
talked
stay
about
with
my
that
interview. I mean,
company,
if you're
your
living
rate
on
will
three
go up.
thousand bucks a month, that's real money.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so I got some questions from some of my subscribers. How about
Okay.
let's see, Medicare abroad? So if I'm moving abroad or traveling or something like that, and that was pretty much all they said. They said, hey, "Can you ask her about Medicare
Yeah.
abroad?" Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So Medicare doesn't cover you outside of the US except for extremely limited circumstances
Okay,
where you're on a ship and you're within so many miles of port, these kinds of things.
okay,
So if you're an expat and you're living somewhere else, you have to decide, do you want to keep the Medicare, right? Because if you ever come back to the US at some point and you didn't enroll in Medicare when you're first eligible, you're going to pay some hefty penalties to
right,
add it
okay,
later on. We recommend that people go ahead and enroll in Part A and B so that they at least have that. And that way, if they ever come back to the US, they've got at least the foundation of the coverage, and that's going to
right,
cover 80% of your expenses. But if you are traveling, let's just say that you're traveling for 2 weeks, you're going on a trip to London or
right,
wherever. If you have a Medigap Plan F or G, you have a $50,000 foreign travel emergency benefit that's
okay,
covered by the carrier. If you have an Advantage plan, you have worldwide emergency coverage, but it's emergency only. So that doesn't mean you can go to the doctor for the flu in London.
okay,
That's not going to get paid for. But if you fall down and sprain your ankle and you've got to go to the hospital,
okay.
that type of thing would be covered.
Would you? I mean, does that mean emergency room? I sprained my ankle. I got to go to
Yeah, let's
emergency
say you
room.
go to the hospital, right? So anything that you're visiting an emergency room for that you wouldn't be able
Okay.
to just wait till you got home would be considered an emergency.
Okay, gotcha.
So if
And
you're
then they,
bleeding or you
okay.
can't walk because something is broken or sprained, typically those are the type of things that would be covered.
But just because, like I said, I'm coming down with strep throat, not.
Yeah, you're going to pay out
Okay.
of pocket. So go to an urgent care clinic and just pay cash for that.
Some guy asked me about the Plan D donut hole. Any thoughts
Yeah.
on that? Okay, so
Oh, the
calculate.
favorite of everybody, the donut hole. Who, this thing has caused more anxiety than is possible. I really look at it sometimes and just shake my head. So back in 2005, and for 40 years prior to that, there was no drug coverage on Medicare. So if you were going to fill a diabetes medication and that medication is $600, you would pay $600, right? Which, like Atlantis, FlexPen, those types of things today, they're very expensive.
Yeah.
So we had people back then that had zero drug coverage. So let me just state up front, Part D is fabulous compared
Okay.
to what we had before, which was nothing.
Nothing. Right. Right.
Also, when first Part D came out, when you fell into the donut hole, you paid 100% of your costs. So the way the donut hole works is Congress had to find a way to encourage you to use generic medications whenever
Okay.
possible. So if you just had a drug plan and you could go fill the brand name, that's what you would fill all the time because the federal government or your insurance company would be paying for it and you wouldn't care.
Right. You didn't
And the
care.
cost to the Medicare program would be unsustainable. So basically, they give you a certain number of dollars to spend on drugs every year. And if you go past that point, you would fall into the donut hole. And during the donut hole, you pay more for the medication than you did before. In the beginning, you paid 100%.
Yeah.
unless you reach the catastrophic coverage level, at which point the
Okay.
coverage would kick back in. All drug plans have catastrophic coverage. It's one of
Okay.
the best pieces about them. If you hit the catastrophic limit, which I think this year is $5,100 out of your own pocket in a year, after that, the insurance company has to cover 95% of your drug
Okay.
costs for the rest of the year. So that's the best part about Part D, is
Okay.
that major protection.
Okay.
But if you go over a certain limit, which this year is $3,820, I think.
Okay.
And that's between you and the insurance carrier, what you've spent together. You hit that limit, where you used to go in the donut hole and pay 100%. Now you pay 25%. So
Okay.
even in the
Okay.
donut hole now, the insurance company is covered 75% of the
Okay.
cost of the
I
drug, and
got
you
you.
pay 25. So it's not nearly as bad as it used to be.
Okay.
However, you could have a drug with a $600 price tag and you're still paying 25% of that. That is hefty to people on a fixed income.
Yeah.
And so this is why it gets a bad rap, right? Because it's expensive for some of these medications. And that's how then the only way the government can get you to comply with doing your best to try to
The
pick medications
generics.
that are cheaper up front.
But still, I mean, you're still not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, or maybe a couple
No,
$1,000 out a max. Okay.
your maximum. Yeah.
But
So the
again,
only,
the reason for an emergency fund, then, in case you had a donut hole, you have
yes.
$2,000 essentially
Yeah.
deductible for.
If
Okay.
you had some money set aside in an HSA left
Yeah.
over from all those years you contributed, that'd be perfect to use on this type of situation.
I was thinking that exactly. TRICARE for Life and Medicare. Any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Okay, so TRICARE for Life is secondary to Medicare. So you have to enroll in Medicare Parts A and B, and then TRICARE is secondary. You can skip enrolling into Part D for drugs because TRICARE already includes drug coverage.
Okay.
The only thing that occasionally we'll see is somebody doesn't like the military network or whatever,
Yeah.
and they want to opt for something else. They can do that. But usually I tell people go with that coverage. That
Okay.
TRICARE for Life is good coverage. So enroll in Part A and B, stick with your TRICARE for Life as long as you're happy with the doctors in that network. There's no reason for you to sign up for a supplement or an Advantage plan, and you can run with that.
So you don't need a supplement or a Part C or a supplement or a Part D.
You don't need any of that. Yeah, just Part A and B.
So you're still paying the $135 a month for Part B.
Yes.
TRICARE for Life presumably has premiums too, or
I would think it does. I'm not sure what they are, but you're probably paying some sort of premium for that as well. So you could compare that against Medicare supplement, but most people choose the TRICARE for Life, so I'm assuming those premiums are pretty reasonable.
And that's literally for life, right? So essentially they don't need to pay, they don't need to get a Part D.
Right.
Part C. Okay. All right, cool. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. So you got the TRICARE for Life. Good.
But you still need Part B. Okay.
Part B. Yep.
Texas teachers, talking to a lady last night.
Yeah.
She was telling me that she thinks, and I don't know this to be true or not. She didn't know, but her group of retired teachers, you know how they can get this. I'm literally repeating back what she told me. She goes, she heard that they have to pay a higher Part B premium. And I said, is a part, because I don't know. I said, are you sure about that? So I was wondering, do they pay? I know they don't pay for FICA. Do they pay for HI for part? I don't know how that works. Anything on Medicare with Texas teachers?
Yeah. So some teachers don't have enough credits paid into Social Security to get the free Part A. And so then, yeah. So if you have to roll in Part A, it's $400+ per month. It's expensive, but
Part A is $400 a month.
So for most people who've worked at least 10 years in their lifetime, when you turn 65, Part A is nothing because you've paid those taxes all your working years. But some teachers don't have that. So the first thing you need to do is ask does your spouse have that? So if your spouse is at least 62 and you've been married for a year, I think it's a year and a half, something like that, you could get free Part A under your spouse. But if you don't have that, then you pay for Part A. So that's why 99% of people don't pay anything for Part A, but you do have, of course, there's going to be some teachers out there that are not married and they don't have the credits, then they're going to pay a lot. Now, if you've worked, 30 quarters in the US, but not 40, you get half price on the Part A. It's like $230 something a month.
A month though?
Yeah, it's per month. It's super expensive. That's in addition to what you're going to pay for Part B. So with teachers, they then are they're very motivated to stick with that TRS insurance, but the TRS plan is an Advantage plan. So if your doctors are not in that, the teacher retirement system. If your doctors are not in the network, they're not happy with that plan, and it's very expensive. That plan is very expensive. So most of the time when we have calls from teachers, and I have a teacher here on my staff, someone that retired from teaching and came to work for me selling insurance, she deals with all of our people coming from TRS and walks them through because she understands. And a lot of times it's a lot cheaper for them to go on Medicare and get a supplement or an Advantage plan than it is to stay on the TRS. But that's the case when they're getting the free Part A through either their work history or their spouse's work history.
So the lesson to be learned here is that if you're a Texas teacher, you should contact Boomer Benefits to say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but can you help me walk me through this? In worst case scenarios, you're going to say, you're good over here, and nothing happened. I mean, no harm, no foul. But because you're on TRS, there might still be better options through a Medicare Advantage or a supplemental policy or Part B?
The ones that you can get on the private market a lot of times are less expensive than what you would pay through the TRS system. It's really unfortunate the way our teachers in this state, their health insurance, retiree health insurance is ridiculously expensive. And, you know, the legislation, I think originally was to provide the insurance for them for like 10 years. And then every year after that, Congress has to fund it. And so that's why the rates have escalated for that. And I'm just giving you a little bit of information that I'm aware of why it's happened, but that insurance is more expensive than it needs to be. And a lot of times we can save them money on the private market.
All right. And on top of that, she was saying she hadn't got a pay raise or at least a cost of living adjustment on their pension for 15 years or something like that. And I said,
and they love to teach, but they barely can afford to make ends meet. It's just not right.
Well, you think about it, you're like, well, the idea would be, well, you got 45,000 or whatever it is as your pension, and we only got 30,000 Social Security, but 45,000 pension stays flat. But Social Security is growing each and every year. It's only a matter of time for the Social Security supplements what you could get on the pension. And so, it's just odd to me. Now, with that said, I was telling her, I know some teachers in California making well in six figures of pensions. And I said, that's a stream on the other way. They're making too much. The extreme on this way is not having a cost of living adjustment in Texas, for heaven's sake. I guess they're going to pass. They're thinking about passing some bill that would give them like extra paycheck or something like that. I said, there's not an incentive for good people to become teachers.
No, it's not.
Any couple pitfalls, Danielle, that you've seen that, and I'm just literally looking at my notes here from what people have asked me, that a lot of people don't know about Medicare, or things they should be looking at as they're entertaining going in there? Anything jump out at you there? Yeah,
let me tell you a couple that I think people should know. So the first thing is when you're working past age 65 and you have employer group health insurance, that insurance, whether it's primary or secondary, is based on the size of the company. So if the employer has more than 20 employees, your group health insurance is primary and Medicare is secondary. And in that case, we would advise you most of the time to enroll in Part A, because remember, Part A costs nothing for most people. So it might help you in the event of a hospital stay to reduce some of your expenses, but it's not going to cost you anything. You can delay Parts B and D until later with no penalty, and those parts have premiums, so that's good, right? But
you can't do that. You can't do Part A. It doesn't hurt you to have Part A on top of your employer group if your employer group is more than 20 people. There's no negatives to that.
That's right. So if it's more than 20, that would be that is a good thing to do. The only exception to that is, of course, if you are still contributing to an HSA. So the IRS won't let you put money into an HSA if you have any other form of insurance. So those people, we would tell them, don't enroll in any part of Medicare until you retire. And that's a small percentage of people. So, but for most people, we would say enroll in Part A, and you can delay the rest, and then you'll get a special election period to add that later with no penalty. But if you work for a small employer, the opposite is true. Medicare is primary, so you need to enroll in both A and B during your 7-month window, which starts 3 months before your 65th birthday, goes through the birthday month, and runs 3 months after. If you fail to enroll in A and B during that because you think that because you have group coverage, you don't have to, you can be 72 and find out that you owe a 70% higher penalty for the rest of your life because you had a 10% penalty for 7 years.
But how would anyone, how would you, I don't know that. How would anyone know that?
Well, Medicare has the Medicare and You handbook, which they used to mail out to people, but I guess now they tell them they can find it online. And in the 120 pages buried in there, you should have read that and known that.
We emailed you.
Yes. Like
So,
I say, we need a class. I'm always saying we need a class at age 50 to tell everybody all this stuff because they don't know. And so I have met these people who
so
literally are
if you're
spending.
working for a company that has less than 20 employees, is that correct?
Hmm.
And they still provide health
They
benefits,
provide you health insurance, but
and you're
that's
thinking, oh, I
secondary.
got health insurance, so I don't need to go on Medicare, and that's the wrong answer. That's
Yeah.
100% incorrect.
Big pitfall right there.
And then if you will get penalized, and it's on you, it's not on Medicare, on your employer, or anything. It's
Yeah.
on you.
And I have even had a couple of people over the years that have called us because they find us online and they're desperate and they're calling to talk to an expert and they're hoping to be told that what they're reading is incorrect. But I've had a couple of them that said they spoke with Social Security at 65 and they were told they didn't
Oh,
need to enroll. Well, unless you recorded that conversation,
it doesn't matter.
and just Social Security, they have reps turnover all the time, so don't trust that. You need to enroll in A and B. If that employer is lower than 20, that group insurance is secondary, and you need to enroll in A and B right when you turn 65.
If I can, I cannot tell you how many people I've told, when you go to Social Security, make sure you know what the hell you're talking about, because a lot of times they won't. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It doesn't mean they're
No,
mean. It doesn't mean they're evil. They just are ignorant.
they just
That's
don't
not the
know.
front level people. There's always, like you
Yeah,
interviewed Devin, and Devin Carroll says, I forgot the people behind, the financial Social Security office or whatever it's called, but there's someone who knows. But the front level people, I say, look, you got to say this. If they don't know, say, I'd like to talk to somebody else.
yeah, ask for a supervisor. If you're not sure, ask for a
Exactly.
supervisor. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and we have those calls come in. It's always heartbreaking because they're going to have to pay so much and they just didn't know any better.
And they were told, but it's even worse, they were told incorrectly.
Yeah,
That's the thing that tipped me off. I
sometimes
was
they
like,
were. And I'll say all the time, but nobody ever told me. I didn't know. And they don't, Medicare and Social Security, they don't care. They're going to
no.
penalize
They're
you for
like, we
that.
got
So,
online. We sent you the
yeah.
book via an
Yep.
email. And you're like, dude, it went into my junk mail. We
It's
don't
supposed to be
care.
by osmosis or something, which is why we have videos like this one trying to let the world know what's going on. So that's pitfall, the first one. The second
Yes.
one is the annual election period in the fall is only for changing your drug plan or your Advantage plan. It is not a time when you get a free pass into a Medicare supplement with no health questions. And here's why this is important. When you're first looking at your options for Medicare, you will find that Medicare supplements have a higher premium with very little spending on the back end. Advantage plans have a much lower premium, but you're going to pay copays and coinsurance as you use healthcare services as you go along. Well, some Advantage plans have advertised that they have what's called a zero premium, which means
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not paying anything more than
Right.
what you spend for Part A and B. You must have both A and B to enroll in an Advantage plan.
Yeah.
That's another thing people get wrong. You're never going to get out of the Part B. You've got to have that. So what people do is they're like, oh, well, there's this annual election period in the fall. I'll sign up for the zero premium Advantage plan and I'll wait till I get cancer and then I'll just switch to the Medigap plan.
Yeah,
It doesn't happen. Nope. The insurance company, there are laws to protect the insurance companies from people that would think like that. This is the same way that State Farm doesn't have to sell you a homeowner's policy after your attic is already on fire. So you want to know this going in, because if you elect an Advantage plan and you're on that Advantage plan for a couple of years and then later you decide that you wish you'd done the fuller, more comprehensive coverage, you can disenroll from the Advantage plan in the annual election period and you can return to original Medicare, but you're going to answer health questions on that Medigap application in most states. Now, there are states like California and Oregon have a birthday rule, I think. Washington, you can change plans anytime with no health questions in that state, but that's why the supplements there are ridiculously expensive.
It got to be crazy expensive,
Super
right?
expensive. Same thing in New York.
In New York,
There's
yeah,
a few
right.
states like that, but most places you're going to answer those health questions. So if you think to yourself that if you had a serious health condition happen that would cause you a lot of treatment, which coverage would you want? If in your mind that coverage is a Medicare supplement, pay for it now, because if you have a zero premium, you're never going to switch away from that to go to a Medigap plan unless you develop a health condition. So I always say everyone loves their Advantage plan until they get sick. And I'll get some negative comments about this. People get mad, right? Because they bought an Advantage plan and they don't want to hear this bad news. But I can tell you from my own clients, we tell them this right up front before they enroll. We want them to know everything going in. in. Well, a lot of smart people will say, hey, I'm going to take this $150 a month that I would have put on a supplement. I'm going to put it in the rainy day fund, and voila, my Advantage plan, if that happens to me, I've got money to help me get through, the fact that I'm going to have a lot of co-pays going into the Advantage plan at that time. So Advantage plans, because you pay as you go along, well, once you get cancer, if you're paying 20% for chemotherapy and that Advantage plan has a $5,000 out-of-pocket max, you're going to spend $5,000 that year. And if you know that going in and you can handle that, you're going to have a good experience with an Advantage plan. But if you didn't know that and you thought you could just switch to a Medigap plan, you're going to be very upset when that happens. So,
or if you weren't saving that $150 a month to begin with, which most people won't anyway. You know what I'm saying? They're like,
if you're on a fixed income, you maybe can't. I will say this. Sometimes people enroll in an Advantage plan because they literally don't have enough money to get a supplement, and that's okay. Just be aware that there are some costs that you may run into when there's health events that happen.
I mean, it's still an out-of-pocket limit on a Medicare Advantage plan.
Yes.
I mean, at least it's not 20% of an unlimited cost.
Yeah, it's not like Medicare Part B where you would just spend that forever.
All right. Just lastly, and I know because I know you got other people to see and Medicare solutions to educate people on a Medicare Advantage plan versus so I use typically $135 on Part B, $35 on Part D, and I usually use $150 for Medicare supplement. That's a pretty good number to use for just basic planning.
In Texas or Georgia, absolutely.
Okay. And Medicare Advantage, though, could be, like you said, from zero. I mean, it could be. I mean, it's completely.
Can be any amount.
Okay, but just because it's zero, there's a reason it's zero because it could be on the back end. Okay.
Yeah. So Advantage plans have some things that people like. When you enroll in an Advantage plan, as long as your doctors are in the network and you check the plan's formulary, people like that the drug plan is rolled in. A lot of them, they like that. As long as the drugs that you take are on the formulary, that's good. They like some Advantage plans will have dental, vision, and hearing benefits or a gym membership. People like that. So what I tell people on that is that's good, but just make sure that you don't enroll in a plan for a free gym membership and your doctor isn't in the network. So don't get so starry-eyed about the ancillary benefits that you don't check the basics. Second thing on Advantage plans, you have to do your homework because in September, they're going to mail you a packet called the Annual Notice of Change. You're going to look at the packet. It's a big old door stopper, and you're going to want to cry. You don't want to open that. You don't want to look at it. But inside that packet, right on the top, it will say, here's what you paid in 2019. Here's what's changing in 2020, and they'll line them up side by side.
Okay.
So the thing about that you need to know is they could change their premium, they could change the copays, they could change the network, they could change the pharmacy network, they could change the drug formulary. So if you don't look at that, and then in January you go to fill your $400 medication and you get a copay of $400 because the pharmacist says it's not covered, you've now missed your annual election period. That annual election period exists because after you review the packet that they send you, which you are supposed to do, if you don't like what's changing, that's the time that you want to make a change. Okay. So super important on that in that regard. Just do your homework. That people that are willing to spend 30 minutes reviewing the annual notice change, or our clients, they get the packet, they get on the phone, they call us, I got my packet, go through it with me. We walk them through, and if there's something they don't like, they can ask for our help changing. If they're happy with it, they can stay. But the thing is that, as you know, we're just lazy, right? We have nothing to do the change. Who wants to read an annual notice of change? Nobody. I mean, it is like pulling teeth. But please do it, because you'll feel so much better knowing that you're happy.
And your doc could change too. Your doc might no longer be in that way too, right, Danielle?
Yeah. So that's another good point. You should give your doctors a call in the fall and make sure they're still going to be on that plan next year.
All right, lots to. I just real quick, because I remember looking at the stuff through Obamacare. I mean, it was painful to me. I literally hated it. And people were like, you should do this. I said, man, I can't take it.
I can't.
And I'm not against looking at stuff. I do financial planning, but it's painful.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
So pretty much anywhere online at Boomer Benefits. So the main
BoomerBenefits.com?
Yeah, BoomerBenefits.com. There's a couple things there. You could sign up. We have a free 6-day email mini course. So you'll get an email in your inbox for 6 days in a row with yours truly on video teaching you Medicare in short little clips. We go over enrollment, penalties, what Medicare covered, what's not covered, and all the supplemental options. So that's a great way to learn. It's free. And another thing is we offer a webinar every 2 to 3 weeks. I do a webinar. It's open to the general public. We don't sell anything on the webinar. We just teach you what you need to know about everything with Medicare. And so you could sign up for one of those. So that if you're new to Medicare or that's on your horizon, those are 2 really good ways that you can come and learn everything you need to know for free. And then on social media, you can find us. Our Facebook page was voted one of the best Facebook pages for baby boomers. We should hit 200,000 followers this weekend. And on YouTube here, I've got 30 videos where I'm teaching all the different Medicare topics. But what's been different about my videos than some of our competitors is I keep them short, right? Because if you want to learn about Medicare, you may already know some things. You don't want to listen to an hour presentation when all you need to know is this little 3-minute part. So you'll find our videos there very helpful.
Well, not that. If you want to listen to an hour, you got 30 videos at 3 minutes pop. Do you do anything in-house, like presentations in your office or anything like that? If people want to come visit in Fort Worth?
If you happen to be in the Fort Worth area, if you'd like to come in and meet with a team member one-on-one, you can. Now, if you're outside the local area, give us a call. My agents are operating in 47 states, and we can walk you through all of this stuff on the phone. And the benefit to you with that is when you're working with a large agency like ours, we have the client service team to help you when things go wrong. So when you call here, you're going to get a live person. Whereas if you enrolled with someone face-to-face that's a solo agent, later when you're calling them about a problem, they're in a meeting with someone else and you're getting their voicemail. So when you work with our agency, that's not going to happen because we can help you by phone getting everything set up. We can help you do an e-application. We handle all the heavy lifting. All you have to do is answer the questions. We'll get everything set up. But then after that, for as long as your policy is with us, you have access to our service team and they solve anything. So if you need an appeal because Medicare denied something, we handle all that kind of stuff at no charge to you.
That's awesome, Danielle. I appreciate you being online here. I'll put links to the show notes and everything. And I just, again, folks, there's absolutely no reason not to contact. I mean, look, I'm not here to make a sales pitch for Danielle, but as a broker, I mean, why would you not do that? You don't know. I don't know.
At the very least, don't go through the insurance company. Use the broker that's going to give you some unbiased advice. Just
don't forget to subscribe.
Planner.
Or subscribe to Danielle's YouTube channel as well, and then the Facebook page. Thanks for being here, Danielle. Much obliged.
My pleasure. Always fun chatting with you, Josh. Thanks very much.
See you.
Bye.